स्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातम् सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to our Saturday and Sunday morning series on the Sri Harinam Chintamani. We are on the 4th chapter discussing Namaprads. And especially the 4th chapter is devoted to one of the main Namaprads, which is among the 10 offenses, the most severe, that is Sadhu Ninda, Vaishnava Parad. So we have been discussing this. This is the 3rd class on this chapter 4. We have been going verse by verse. So Satam Ninda, this is the first aparad, and Haridas Thakur starts speaking about it. First of all, he delineates the 10 offenses, Namaprads. And after mentioning the 10 offenses, then he mentions the offense of inattentive chanting. And then another offense is, in spite of knowing the glories of the holy name, one is attached to I and my conception. And then he goes to the first offense, Sadhu Ninda. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur goes to the discussion of, there are 2 types of Lakshan, Tatastha and Swarup Lakshan. There are these 26 qualities of a Vaishnava, and Swarup Lakshan is Krishnika Sharanam. Rest all are Tatastha Lakshan. If one has that Swarup Lakshan, even if those other 25 qualities are not manifested, he is a sadhu and he should not be criticized. So that's how Bhaktivinoda Thakur systematically, is addressing sadhu ninda. And then yesterday we saw from verses 22 onwards how one cannot, recognize a sadhu based on the outward signs of varnashram, whether he is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, or Sannyasi. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, after explaining the Varnashram perspective, then from the Gaudiya Vaishnava perspective, yesterday we had a long discussion of this concept of Grahastha and Grahatyagi. These were the terms which were there during Bhaktivinoda Thakur's time, because Varnashram was practically non-existent, and how, in the Gaudiya line, the 6 Goswamis were Paramhamsas and they were in Babaji Vesh. So either in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara, there were Grahastha devotees practicing Krishna consciousness, and there were Grahatagis who were Babajis practicing Krishna consciousness, and they were in the Paramhamsa stage, at least at the stage of Bhava and Prema. But this system, which the 6 Goswamis, line started, the 6 Goswamis did not, recognize themselves as Brahmanas, although they were Brahmanas, and being humble, although they were the topmost sannyasis, and within the sannyasis they were Paramhamsas. They being humble, they just, took to the Babaji Vesh or the Paramhamsa Vesh. And anyway, Vaishnavism is transcendental to Varnashram. But later on, when during Bhaktivinoda Thakur's time, the pure teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had completely diluted, and a lot of upper sampradayas had come, and many were having this Babaji Vesh, but they were addicted to all kinds of sinful activities. So the whole pure teaching of Mahaprabhu was completely, distorted. So then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, although he was also a Paramhamsa, he humbled himself and took to the sannyas order of life and established the Brahmachari ashram also. So that is why Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he is addressing, here the Grahastha devotees and the Grahatyagi. And he speaks about, Raghunath Das Goswami's instructions by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the Grahasthas. And the same Raghunath Das Goswami, when he becomes a Grahatyagi, what are his lakshan? So what is the lakshan of a Grahastha? Is that he should give up Markat Vairagya and practice Yukta Vairagya and be peaceful, be at home, and just by preaching Krishna consciousness, he can cross over the cycle of birth and death. So yesterday I was mentioning how the Grahasthas should, either do 2 things: directly engage in preaching or assist in preaching. And by these 2 things, being situated in the Grahastha ashram, practice Krishna consciousness, and with the purification of the heart, when one becomes highly advanced, that is, one attains the stage of Bhava or Prema, at least Asakti, then, with the permission of his spiritual master and all the family members, ultimately he can renounce family life and take to the sannyas order of life, the Paramhamsa stage. Paramhamsa stage is Bhava and Prema stage in one sense, especially in the Gaudi land. So Grahatyagi, the same Raghunath Das Goswami who became a Grahatyagi, his instructions, higher instructions for the renounced order, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives. So this is what we saw yesterday. And then how Bhaktivinoda Thakur, after discussing the Grahastha and the Grahatyagis, Lakshanas, both their Swarup Lakshan is Krishnaika Sharan. Again, he comes to, we should not have this discrimination. Oh, these are Grahastha Vaishnava devotees, these are Brahmachari Vaishnava devotees, these are Sannyas Vaishnava devotees. Even if you meet this kind of discrimination, it is on the bodily concept. A Vaishnava is a Vaishnava, whether he's a Grahastha, Brahmachari, or a Sannyasi, or a Vanaprastha also. You have to see that he has surrendered to Krishna. Krishneka Sharanam. So all these distinctions, Varnashram distinctions are secondary, and all are Ananya Sharanam. And even if they commit, even if there are they are Ananya Sharana, and we have to accept the verdict of Gita and Bhagavad. And this is a very confidential teaching, Niguda Siddhanta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying. So yesterday I also mentioned these verses, Apichet Sudaracharo and Shipram. And then even if he is engaged in sense gratification, not able to give sense gratification, but he's practicing bhakti, how does Krishna see? How does Krishna motivate such a devotee? Just keep on practicing devotional service, even if you are not able to give a sense gratification. And this is also another verse which yesterday I did not quote. Swapada moolam bhajata priyasya tektvanya bhavasya hare paresha vikarma yachotpatitam kadachin dhunoti sarvam ridi sannivishta. So even if, there are traces of sinful activities you see in the devotees, but this are the guiding principles, Apichet Sudaracharo, and this verse from the Uddhav Gita. So this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is mentioning. This is a very confidential teaching, and we cannot conceive the inconceivable potency or mercy of Krishna. How merciful was Krishna to Ajamil, although he was, throughout his life as a youth, when he got married to his prostitute, till the end of his life, practically he was committing sin. He was engaged in sinful activities. But yet, Krishna never forgot the devotional service he executed as a youth, as a Brahmana. And then Krishna gave him that chance. So this is the boundless compassion and mercy what Krishna has for his parts and parcels. So we cannot fathom that. And that is why we should be very careful that even if devotees fall into if they commit some abominable activity, we should never criticize them. So that is the point Bhaktivinoda Thakur brings out. So now, after discussing this confidential verses from the Gita and Bhagavad, now he comes to that about a Vaishnava, if he has any sin or any pap, any dosh, any faults, one should not see those faults. So that is the point now Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to emphasize. So from text 37 to 42, a person who criticizes a devotee because of that devotee's previous sins or the fragrance of previous sins is an offender to the holy name. Purva paper gandha avashesh o purva papa laksha kariya ini Krishne ka sharana sadur ninda karena tini nama paradi. So now onwards, very carefully we have to understand where we are committing this nama parad, the first nama parad, that is sadhu ninda. When we criticize ninda because of the devotee's previous sin, that is previous to he coming to devotional life, or the gandha, the fragrance of that might remain while he is executing devotional service, and then you point out that. Let us now go by verse to this. Krishna name ruchi abe hoy be uday eka name purva papa hoy beke shoy. When one has developed a real taste for chanting, Krishna name ruchi hoy yabe hoy be uday, when it manifest. Ata Shri Krishna Madi na bhayved graim indriya sevan mukhe hi jivado swayam eva spuritas. When it happens, when it spurits, hoy be uday. Ek nama purva pap hoy beke shoy. Then a single utterance, ek nama, of the holy name can eradicate all previous sins. Purva papa hoy beke shoy. That one name. Now my question to you is this. We have discussed this, but again, just to check how far you have understood the subject. This is the chanting at which level or at which stage of chanting, where this effect happens, that puro papa hoy beke shai. Everyone can try to answer. Preferably give me the stage in the chantings. Now both the answers are wrong. For your kind information. I don't want, again, from the stages of chanting, there is Namaprad, Namabhashya, Shuddhanam, but I want from the 9 stages of Bhakti, that is from Shraddha to Prema. Please type in the chat box. There is one answer which has come. No, I'm still not getting the right answer. No. I'm still not. Yes, one answer is from Vasant Naikpuru. It is at Ruchi, because the word Ruchi is here. But technically, it is Asakti, or you can say Ruchi and Asakti also in one sense. So it is actually Asakti. At the stage of Nishtha also, the scent of sense is there, but it doesn't affect. Only at the higher stages, it's completely eradicated. And Anarth Nivritti, no, because at Anarth Nivritti stage also there are Anarthas, and that chanting is still Namaprad chanting. In Bhava, the chanting is Shuddhanam. So it is not that there is no pap only. There is no trace of pap there in the heart. Only there is very faint trace of aparad, and that will be eradicated at the stage of prema. So pap and punya is completely eradicated at the stage of asakti, in fact. So in the Madhuri Kadambini, when Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur discusses, the 3rd shower of nectar, or the 4th shower of nectar, that is Anarth Nivritti. I think it is 3rd shower, Anarth Nivritti. So Anarthas are because of 4 things he mentions. Sukrita Utta, Dushkrita Utta, Bhakti Utta, and Aparad Utta. These 4 things he says. And Sukrita and Dushkrita is Papa and Punya. Bhakti Utta means because of execution of devotional service, there can be some seva aparads which we do. And then there is, the Aparad Utta. Aparad Utta refers to the Nama Prads and the Vaishnava Prad, Jiva Prasad, Jiva Himsa and all that. So he mentions how this eradication happens of these 4 kinds of, Sukrita, Dushkrita, Bhakti Utta, and Aparad Utta. He mentions that both Sukrita and Dushkrita are completely destroyed at the stage of Asakti. So here it is referred to Pap. Puro Pap hoy beke shai. Shai means completely eradicated. And Vishwanath Chakra Thakur makes it clear at the stage of Asakti, completely Atyantika. Atyantika means complete eradication of Papa and Punya happens. Then about even Bhakti Utta also happens at the stage of Asakti. At the stage of Bhava, Purna means almost complete. Prayaki is complete. Purna is Prayaki means almost. Purna means complete. And Atyantiki means complete eradication with no trace of it returning back. That is called as Atyantiki. So I'm just using these terms, Prayiki, Purna, and Atyantiki. So even Vaishnava Aparadh, to certain degree is destroyed at the stage of Nishtha. Very few aparadhs are destroyed. At the stage of Asakti, it is Prayaki. At the stage of Bhava, it is Purna, but with slight heresies. At the stage of Prema also, there is, it is Purna. But only when one attains the lotus feet of Krishna and situated in his spiritual Swarupa in the spiritual world, then there is no question of, aparadh ever manifesting. A Premi Bhakta, there is no trace of even the Vaishnava aparadh. All the traces are completely eradicated. But if a Premi Bhakta also commits Vaishnava aparadh, then he will also have to come down to lower levels. In fact, his rasa, if he is situated in higher rasa, his rasa comes down. So that is what he mentions. So here in this context, it is referring to the stage of asakti. So I'm just quoting some verses from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which substantiate this verse. Ek Krishna naam kare sarva papa shoy, premera karana bhakti karena prakasha. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra without offenses vanquishes all sinful activities. Eka Krishna Nam. So again, it is Nama Bhashya stage, definitely, but within Nama Bhashya stage, it is the stage of Asakti. Thus, pure devotional service, which is the cause of love of Godhead, becomes manifest. From Nama Bhashya stage, you go to Shuddhanam. So, Nama Bhashya will lead to Shuddhanam. Asakti chanting will lead to chanting in spontaneous love, Bhava. So like that you can say. Eka Krishna name kare sarva papashoy navida bhakti purna nama hoita hoy. This also Bhaktivinoda Thakur, very similar verse he has composed in Harinam Chintamani. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna once, a person is relieved from all reactions of sinful life. Sarva papashoy, ek Krishna. Again, one can complete the 9 processes of devotional service simply by chanting the holy name. So this verse especially extols the glory of, among the 9 aspects of devotional service, how, chanting the holy names is the topmost, and how by chanting all the sins are eradicated. Again, here it is the stage of asakti. Then Haridas Thakur to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nama Bhasya hoite hoy sarva papashaya. Haridas Thakur is saying, if one chants one offenselessly utters the holy name, even imperfectly, one can be freed from all the results of sinful life. So with this Namabhasya chanting, we saw in the 3rd chapter about Namabhasya, how Namabhasya affects us, you become free from all sinful reactions. So this definitely is referring to the stage of Asakti, chanting at the level of Asakti. Now further, any questions, any clarifications you have regarding this verse, text 37, what we discussed? Yes, there is Sharmishta Mataji. Yeah, please. What's your question?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, am I audible to?
Yeah, very clear.
Yes. Prabhuji, my question is, whom should we consider as Vaishnava? Because we are seeing so many people who say themselves as we are Vaishnavas, but neither they are initiated or nor worshipping. They are not exactly worshipping Krishna only. They are also worshipping demigods, including Krishna. Okay. So, and they are not having any Vaishnava activities and behavior. Their behavior is not like Vaishnavas. And also they are not following the Vaishnava etiquette properly.
Okay.
So it is.
We have discussed. We have discussed this quite long time back. that anyone who takes the name of Krishna from his mouth, Janra Muke Ek Krishnam Lay, say Vaishnav. So this is the highest standard, or as in Updeshamrit, Rup Goswami is say, Krishneti Yasya Giritam Manasadriyeta. If somebody takes the holy name, if outside you go, to buy some grocery, and the vegetable seller tells Hare Krishna Mataji, so he has taken the name of Hare Krishna. So he is a Vaishnava, and we should offer respects. So that is the standard, and there are higher levels. But this is the standard by which we should recognize who is a Vaishnava, and we should respect especially Vaishnavas and all Jivas, by which we will not commit offenses. So that is how we should understand. Prem Prabhuji, you have a question?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Pranam Prabhu.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, the thing is, see, okay, we are supposed to only have discussions about Krishna. The thing is, but in our life, we will have a lot of discussions with everybody, and specifically with people whom we know as devotees whom we associate with. How do we then, manage to not feel ill or, have a different thought from others? Because, like, for example, somebody may have a political view, or somebody, for example, has a view on, not wanting to vaccinate themselves in Corona time, but they want to just go about, their life saying, no, this all is a sham. So, as much as you might still, be associated with them and learn and exchange various discussions with them, about Krishna, sometimes you'll end up having this discussion, and these points of view are very contradictory. So how does one, not have an ill feeling, or even for that matter, it's not also an ill feeling, it's to say, why is that person, in the simplest, in a simpler word, you say, why is that person being so, reckless or irresponsible in terms of, just saying this is not going to affect me, therefore go about it.
Okay, so I got a question. So basically, Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Harinam Chintamani, he is speaking about in Vaishnavas saying, criticizing his character, or if he commits some sinful activity, speaking about his, those activities and finding faults, that he's emphasizing on, and that will come up again in the coming verses, and it will become very clear. Now, regarding, the things of this world, opinions, somebody might prefer Ayurveda, somebody might prefer allopathy, somebody might prefer homeopathy. These are all preferences of individuals, and that has nothing much connection to do with spiritual life. Okay, so these are two different issues. So everyone, based on his upbringing or his cultural conditioning or his previous experiences, will have different opinions about these things. So these are different, and we should always, separate the two. But when we speak about Vaishnava character, or his sinful activity, or his previous sinful activities, then all this is is actually sadhuninda, and that we should be very careful. And everyone is coming from a very different backgrounds, different cultures, especially if you go in the Western world. So they are coming from very different cultures. So it's sometimes we are coming from different cultures, so this cultural conditionings will be there. But ultimately, we should have a spiritual vision towards things, that how they are engaged in Krishna service, how that soul is engaged in Krishna service. Although they are, their habits might be different, their cultural conditioning might be different, and their knowledge and understanding about different subjects, like, as you're mentioning one example of views about taking the vaccine or no. So these will vary, and that we should not too much focus on. But real thing is, when we speak about ill about Vaishnavas because of their, previous sinful activities or the traces of sin which are remaining while practicing spiritual life. That we should be very, very careful. So that will come up also again more. Okay, there is question. I cannot say no to the questions because by question answers only things become clear. So yes, Maya Narasimha Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I had one narration by one of our very senior devotees. Among the, I think, I don't remember whether it is Rupa Goswami or Sanatana Goswami, who was meditating in Vrindavan on Krishna and Radha on his pastime. So suddenly at that time, one Brajvasi came and he got distracted. So there also, it has been explained that Brajvasi considered it as an offense because that Brajvasi was a lame man and he was walking towards this Goswami, but he thought that he laughed at him. So because of that, this Goswami's attention or that pastime has broken, and he experienced some kind of dissatisfaction. So like that in our life also, without we intentionally committing any offense, other devotees may think that we offended them. So in those circumstances, how we can rectify and how we will come to know about that, Prabhuji?
Okay, now firstly regarding the pastime what you are describing, let me make it very clear. This is narrated with respect to Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami was in his bhajan kutir and he was completely, maybe in his chanting, he was in deep meditation and he was actually seeing Radha Krishna pastimes. Vaishnava who was limping, he had come actually to see Rupa Goswami because Rupa Goswami was very famous. The sixth Goswami is very famous. He had come with a lot of enthusiasm to have darshan of Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami in the pastime was seeing actually that Srimati Radharani was trying to pick up a flower for making a garland for Krishna. And Krishna was there on the branch and he had bent the branch. And when Srimati Radharani somehow, tried to raise herself up, trying to hold the branch and pick up the flowers, Krishna suddenly released the branch. And what happened is Srimati Radharani was hanging. And Rupa Goswami was having this darshan of the beautiful pastime. And out of Hasya Ras, Rupa Goswami laughed. At that exact point, this Vaishnava came. And this Vaishnava saw that Rupa Goswami laughed. And this Vaishnava thought maybe Rupa Goswami laughed because of, my, physical deformity. That is why he laughed and he went back. And it is said that Rupa Goswami's meditation broke. Many devotees have an understanding that actually Rupa Goswami, he committed mentally an offense, and that is why his meditation broke. But actually the true story is little quite different. In fact, Srimati Radharani wanted that devotee who had come to see Krishna, Rupa Goswami, not to commit an offense. Srimati Radharani wanted that he should not commit an offense to Rupa Goswami. And that is why Rupa Goswami's meditation about the pastime broke. And this Vaishnava, when he went back, because actually in one sense, Rupa Goswami had not committed any offense to this Vaishnava. He was actually laughing, or he was blissful, and he was experiencing ecstasy and laughter, Hasya Ras, when he saw in the meditation this pastime. He was not actually laughing at that Vaishnava. So this Vaishnava, he took it wrong and he went back. And actually, he was thinking, why did Rupa Goswami laugh? And actually, he was suffering because it is his mistake. So he was suffering, and Srimati Radharani wanted to protect that devotee. So when Sanatana Goswami came and Rupa Goswami explained that this is what happened, so then Sanatana Goswami said, you should invite all the Vaishnavas. And Ultimately, Rupa Goswami invited all the Vaishnavas for prasadam, served them, honored them. But this particular Vaishnava did not come. And then immediately Sanatana Goswami said, maybe this is the Vaishnava. Maybe there is something he has against you. So that is why he has not come. So Rupa Goswami went there. And this Vaishnava was actually suffering because he had committed an offense to Rupa Goswami by thinking wrong about that whole incident. So when Rupa Goswami went and personally invited, the matter became clear. And Srimati Radharani gave mercy to that Vaishnava. So Srimati Radharani blocked the pastime, what Rupa Goswami was having darshan, so that Vaishnava can get mercy. So that is how this whole pastime has to be seen. Many think that actually Rupa Goswami committed an offense, and that is why the pastime completely disappeared. But it was Srimati Radharani who intervened. This is what the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas explain. Now, this is a very exalted platform for us to ever imagine. But I will give you some practical hint and let you know, if you are respecting each and every jiva, sakale samman korite shakati dehonata yata yata, and respecting each and every Vaishnava according to his position, and then you are chanting, you see your chanting, how your chanting is. And then if you disrespect Vaishnavas or commit aparadh, and the next day you chant, you can see immediately the effect. So everything is, detected or understood by our chanting. So respect all the Vaishnavas, respect all the jivas, and take the holy name. Amanina manadena, trunadapi sunichena, tarorapi sahishnam, amanina manadena, kirtaniya sadhari. And then you see, you'll be always able to take the holy name. So this should be the barometer for us to understand and check. I hope both these points are addressed to you regarding the pastime of Rupa Goswami and how to understand whether we are committing offenses. Now, I humbly request, whenever you have questions, please raise your hand and ask. And while discussion, if you keep on typing the questions, then you cannot either participate in the discussions. So please raise your hand to ask the questions. Yes, Swapnil Prabhuji. 1 second, I will unmute you. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes.
Prabhu, are aparadhas same as anarthas?
Interesting question. Huh? Are aparadhas same as anarthas? No, aparadhas are not same as anarthas. The anarthas are the coverings of the soul. And these anarthas are because of papa, punya, and so many other factors. These are anarthas, which are the impressions in the chitta. The papa covers the soul's pure consciousness. And punya also can cover in one sense. So usually these anarthas are, of many varieties, and especially the papa and the punya. But aparadhas are also part of the anarthas in one sense, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur analyzes like that. There are, anarthas, he divides into 4 categories. There is, because of the pure soul's consciousness covered by material contamination, we are attracted to, so many material desires. So he says that is one kind, that is called as asat trishna. Asat trishna means having material desires, like material desires to enjoy, having a big house, big car, bungalow, heavenly enjoyment, desire to go and enjoy in, Darjeeling or in Goa or in Miami or in heavenly planets, desire for liberation, desire for mystic siddhis. So these are all in the category of Asat Krishna. Then he explains anarthas because of Hridhay Daurbalya. Hridhay Daurbalya means weakness of the heart. So this weakness of the heart means in the heart there is, enviousness. We envy others when others are, advancing more than us. So these kind of feelings which we have, these are Hridhay Daurbalya. And then especially Puja La Pratishta. So these are also called as weakness of the heart. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a solution that we should, have loving exchanges with devotees, the 6 kind of loving exchanges to counteract this. And then he explains aparadh as part of anarthas. But again, it is a little different. I will come to that. So there is Nam aparadh, Vaishnava aparadh, Dham aparadh, Jiva aparadh, all this. And then he explains the another anartha is Tattva Vibhrama. Tattva Vibhrama means truth about the soul, truth about Krishna. The sadhana tattva, not understanding the sadhana tattva, and the sadhya tattva. Sadhya means not understanding the highest goal. Our goal is to attain Braja Krishna, not Dwarka Krishna, like that, But aparadhs are basically committed by the soul. It is the soul who becomes, it is the soul who becomes envious of another Vaishnava and criticizes it. But sins are committed by the soul only, but sins are because of the conditioning which is there in our nature, because of vasanas, we become affected by the conditionings, previous conditionings, and we might commit some sinful activity. That is because of the conditionings. But it is the soul who actually is envious of the Vaishnavas and criticizes the Vaishnavas. So that is why there is a slight subtle difference, although it is part of aparadh. I hope this is clear to you.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So any other questions anyone has? There is one again question in the chat box. What is the solution if we are doing offenses towards anyone unknowingly? At least take care of knowingly not to commit offenses. Unknowingly, if you have done, definitely Krishna will take care of it. And we should be sincere in our chanting. That is very important for us. Okay, so we'll proceed ahead. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to speak something very interesting. Please hear attentively. He has spoken in this verse how one name of Krishna, all the sin is eradicated. Sarva Papa Shaya. Purva Papa Gandha Tabu Thake Kichu Dina Namera Prabhave Kramehan Pade Shina. The scent of his previous sins may still linger for some days. Purva Papa Gandha. Now, practically, I'll tell you, for all devotees, who are in the Krishna conscious movement, previous to coming to Krishna consciousness, we must be and definitely doing a lot of sins, especially like meat eating or intoxication, so many things. And when we took up to Krishna consciousness, we saw how quickly we are able to give up this. So the Papa is destroyed, but the Papa Gandh might be there, scent, especially among the 4 regulative principles. The illicit sex troubles a lot until one crosses Anarth Nivritti and he is situated in higher levels. So the Gandha, it remains, it lingers for some days. That is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying. But by the potency of the holy name, Namera Prabhava, Kramehan, they too will be gradually destroyed. Han means destruction. Pade Shina. It will become Shina. There is a footnote. Previous sins cannot stay when a person is attracted to the holy name. The scent of the previous sins may stay, but they also perish after a few days. So this, can refer to, I don't know how many, it can be few years also. So it is all dependent on how much we have attraction to holy name. Nama Ruchi. So the more we are attracted to the holy name, the more, these traces, gandha. It is only the gandha. There is no sinful activity, but there is a trace, or the gandha is there, scent is there in the chitta. That is destroyed. Now, I'm asking you frankly, somebody before coming to Krishna consciousness was, addicted to alcoholism, addicted to meat eating. Now, how many of us feel like, while practicing Krishna consciousness, ever to eat meat or drink alcohol? We become, there is like curling of the, lips, what is, Yamunacharya saying. So we are not at all, even if we see the alcohol or meat, we feel disgusted. So there is no, inclination, also taste in the mind. Oh, I'm missing meat eating, or I'm missing alcohol. So it is not there. So because of the chanting of the holy name. But as we get attraction to chanting for the holy name, even these deeper gandhas which are there will all get destroyed. So that is the point. Shigra se papa gandha vidurita hoy, parama dharmatma boli hoya parichai. The scent of sin is quickly thrown away. Then that person becomes known as a great saint. Shipram bhavati dharmatma. Shipram means very quickly. All the sin will be eradicated. That's what Gita also says, 9.31. And then he becomes a dharmatma. Here also, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is exactly quoting 9.31. Ye kaya ke dina sei gandha nayaya sadharana jana chakshu papa boli bhaya. During those days, when the last traces of sin are not yet destroyed, the ordinary people still see him as a sinner. Now, it is interesting, Vishwanath Chakra Thakur in his Madhurya Kadambini mentions that Ajamil, when he kept his last son's name as Narayan, and he was very fond of his last son. Usually the last children, the last sons, or the youngest in the family is always more pampered and loved. So he was always taking the name of Narayan. Narayan, come here. Narayan, have food. Narayan, like that. So by that chanting of Narayan, he was chanting Namabhas. And because of his chanting of Namabhas, all the sin was eradicated. But yet Ajamil, even at that age, was also still committing robbery. He was still, addicted to alcohol. But Vishwanath Chakra Thakur says, no, his all sin was eradicated. There was some trace left. And sometimes Krishna doesn't manifest the potency of the Naam. It might take some time for the potency to manifest. Although he was free from all sin, and yet he was engaged in still sinful activities, but still he was pure. That is what Vishwanath Chakra Thakur is mentioning in the Madhurya Kadambini. And it manifested when at the time of death, he called out Narayan. The Vishnu Dutas came. He was free from sin, even when he was committing sinful activities, because he was taking the name of his child Narayan. He was Namabhas, he was doing Namabhas chanting. That is the potency. And people outside, or even devotees, might see that he's taking the name of Narayan, but yet he's doing sinful activities. Or devotees in the devotee community might see that somebody might, get addicted to previous habits, and he's still continuing to chant. So they might think, oh, he's chanting, but yet he's addicted to sinful activity. Actually, that sinful activity trace is gone, but Krishna might not manifest the Nama Prabhav. That is my point here. Nama Prabhava which is mentioned in Namera Prabha, he might not manifest. He might manifest at a particular time according to his will. And we might not have understanding of it, and we might think, oh, he's a sinner. During those days, when the last traces of sin are not yet destroyed, ye kaye ke dina se gand nahi aaye, sadharan jana chakshu papa boli bhai. The ordinary people who have bhaya drishti still seem as a sinner. And not only ordinary people, even devotees might also seem as a sinner. So that's why we should be very, very careful. I don't know whether you remember, I discussed the pastime which Radha Govind Maharaj mentions, that some saints were passing by to the village where Ajamil lived. And when they entered the village, some local people were sitting and doing chit-chatting. And these sadhus asked, can you tell us, is there any Brahmana's house here where we can go and take prasad? So out of mockery, out of fun, because all the villagers knew that Ajamil was a Brahmana before and he was now a sinful thief, an illicit sex monger, and he was always committing papa. So out of fun, they said, you please go to Ajamil's house. He's a Brahmana. He will, take care of y'all. And these sadhus, they landed up in Ajamil's house and they saw in his house, there is all liquor bottles and, his wife is there and all dirty things are there. But still these sadhus, they have told he's a Brahmana. So Ajamil, they accepted him as a Brahmana. And his wife was pregnant. She was carrying the last child. And she also respected the sadhus. The sadhus wanted to go back now. And she told, my husband is gone out, not for work, but for robbery. So she asked, because she had darshan of sadhus, what name I should give to the son. And see the compassion of the sadhus. They saw positively these events and told to name the son as Narayan. And that's how Krishna inspired the sadhus to give Ajamil's last son name as Narayan, because Krishna knew that Ajamil will be, very much attached to his last son. And he will take the name of Narayan. And Krishna wanted to bestow that mercy. Through the sadhus, he bestowed this mercy. From the ordinary perspective, Ajamil was still a sinner, but not from Krishna's perspective. That is why Krishna is saying, Sadhu eva samantavya samvyak vyavastito hi saha. 9.30. Api chetsu duracharo bhajate mam ananyabhak. Sadhu eva samantavya samvyak vyavastito hi saha. Sadhu, we should see him as a sadhu, Krishna is saying. And if we don't see him as a sadhu, we neglect the order of Krishna and we commit aparadh. So that is why we should be very, very careful about it. So, sadharana jana shakshu. Se papa dekhiya e sadhu ninda kare, purva papa lakshi puna avagya achare. Seeing that trace of sin, se papa dekhiya, someone may criticize that devotee. Ye sadhu ninda kare. Seeing that he had previously sinned, purva papa laksha. Laksha means you pointing out, oh, previously he had sinned. Puna avagya achare. Someone may criticize his character. Here is a footnote. Let me see what is the footnote. When a person takes shelter of Lord Krishna, that person's previous sins are almost all destroyed. Only a scent of sin remains. A person who, thinking of his previous sins, criticizes that Vaishnava, commits a great offense. So this is a very, very important point for us to understand. So I will not quote exactly, but this is from one of the temples. There was some incident and I will not quote anyone, but how this can happen in the, in the society, I can explain. There is one very exalted Vaishnava who's a big leader in ISKCON and a very good preacher. And many of the senior devotees who joined under him, who were trained by him, they had a lot of difference of opinion with the way, this devotee, preaches. And they had, somehow he was previously coming from a very cultured family, but he had Mayavad inclination. So whenever they had this difference of opinion about something, these other devotees were pointing out to that this devotee previously he was attracted to Mayavad philosophy, and now also because of that only he has difference in philosophical opinion. So there are some philosophical differences, and many of the other devotees also were criticizing this Vaishnava, and I personally heard it. And all these other Vaishnavas who were criticizing all left, and this Vaishnava, he still continued because he did not go take that stand of criticizing the Vaishnavas. So criticism or Vaishnava aparadh, the first effect, what Srila Vishwanath Chakra Thakur mentions is, you leave the association of Vaishnavas and fall trapped to bad association. So that is why we should be very, very careful, especially to criticize the character of a Vaishnava. Very, very, very careful we should be. Seite Pashandi Vaishnavara Ninda Dhosh Nam Aparadha Maji Pade Krishna Rosh. Such a critic is an offender who criticizes the character. By blaspheming a devotee, Vaishnava and Ninda Dosh, he commits an offense to the holy name, Nam Aparadh Maji. He falls down because of such a blasphemy, makes Krishna angry. Pade, Maji Pade. Maji Pade means he falls down. Majja means to fall in the ocean of again misery. Krishna Rosh. You do Ninda Dosh and you attract Krishna Rosh. Rosh means you make Krishna angry. So if you criticize Vaishnavas, then you are making Krishna angry. So this is how severe is Vaishnav aparadh, and we should be very, very careful about this Vaishnav aparadh. Any questions, any clarifications regarding till now what we discussed? I'm going a little slow because these are to be very clearly understood. That's why I'm going quite slowly here. Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes.
Prabhuji, suppose we are doing some group devotional service in temple, and in that service, if we want to give some feedback to particular devotee to correct his action, will it be counted in offenses?
See, correction especially is left with his authorities and especially his spiritual master. And especially if that devotee himself asks for corrections, one should be very hesitant. One should be very hesitant. And that devotee genuinely and sincerely comes and he genuinely wants correction, and you see that sincerity, then just as a matter of seva, if we do that, then it is okay. So this is how we should function in the association of devotees. We should be very careful. We might have observed something wrong. We make a note of it, but we think, oh, now I see fault in this Vaishnava. I will point it out. No, that is not our mood. We should be humbly praying, and we should be observant and think of how to, how that devotees, these actions should not affect himself or the community. And we should be careful, and we should be in a prayerful mood. So if we are in a prayerful mood, Krishna will give that inspiration to us to, correct. So usually we are very passionate and we want to immediately bring out. So that should not be our mood, and we should hold on for a long time. And especially Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's one beautiful statement I saw, and next time I will put it in the slide, the picture. A very beautiful statement. He says, don't criticize the faults of others, or especially Vaishnavas. That is not your business. It is Krishna's business. Krishna, it is between him and Krishna. If you want to criticize or find faults with yourself. And that for us to do is a lot austerity, and we don't want to do that exercise. So better by finding fault with our own things. It requires introspection. We have to see within for us to find our own faults. But because we have Bhaya Drishti, we can see externally and see faults in others. But it requires Antar Drishti to see fault within ourselves and correct ourselves. And that is, the mind will not agree for it. And by that, real purification happens. So that is how our mood should be. And in the question regarding correction, we should leave it to that devotee and their authorities, especially his spiritual master. And we should be in a prayerful mode. And if they, genuinely come and ask for it, still we should be reluctant. But still they sincerely come and sincerely ask, then only we should, be doing that in a mood of service. Is it clear, Virendra Yadav Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Yes. Any other questions anyone has? Okay, so just two verses I will take. We are just 8:35, but just 2-3 verses. I just want to finish 2 verses only. Yeah, just 2 verses. Okay. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because the discussion is continuing, that's why I want to take it up. Krishneka Sharanate, Sharana Sharanate, Sadhu Lakshan, Apanake, Sadhu Bolia, Parichaya, Doya, Dambi Kata. The quality of a devotee is that he takes shelter of Lord Krishna and no one else. Person who announce I am saint are arrogant hypocrites. Krishna eka sharana matra, Krishna nama gay, sadhu name parichita, Krishnera kripaya. A person who chants the holy name and takes shelter of Lord Krishna and no one else becomes known by Lord Krishna's mercy as a saintly person. Sadhur eva samantavya, as in 9.30. Why? Because apichetsu duracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak. He is worshipping me. He is not worshipping devtas. He is not practicing karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga. He is practicing bhakti yoga. So he has taken shelter of me. He is a sadhu. So this is the only barometer by which we recognize who is a sadhu. Oh, this is an important discussion which I forgot to take up. I will take up in the next class this, because it will take some time. Here, this verse, surrender to Krishna means he appreciates devotees. Therefore, he does not criticize other Vaishnavas. Krishneka Sharana means what? He, anyone, even sometimes outside people have appreciation for devotees. He should also be considered as a sadhu in one sense. And the devotees have genuine appreciation for other devotees. Many of my colleagues, some of them who were there in the Brahmacharya ashram many years back when I joined, many of them are grahasthas now. But the kind of appreciation they have for devotees who live in the ashram, especially Brahmacharya, they have genuine appreciation and they express it. So this genuine appreciation is the sign of surrender. And we should also see that these grahasthas also, who were before brahmacharis, they have that appreciation. They are also sadhus. So this is how our mood should be. So I forgot to discuss this one important slide. I discussed it, but I did not show the slide. I will come to that. Give me one more verse I will take. Krishna Bhakta Vyatita Nahi Kya Sadur Ar Ami Sadhu Boli Hoy Dhamba Avatar. Only Lord Krishna's devotees, Krishna Bhakta, and no one else are truly saintly. Krishna Bhakta Vyatita Nahi Sadhu Ar. A person who proclaims himself to be a saintly person is nothing but a vain hypocrite. He is an incarnation of arrogance personified. Damba. Damba is a demonic quality. You know, if somebody says, I am sadhu, he's not a sadhu. And Krishna Bhakta, he never considers himself as a sadhu. So that's how the difference is. So I will just take up this slide, which I forgot to discuss. Now, that may have traces of sin or faults, which we discussed now. Now here, please attentively see this chart, especially this side. This pink color is, his attraction to Krishna, bhakti attraction to Krishna. You can see here, which I have marked here with the arrow. At the stage of Shraddha, this attraction is quite less, 5%, 10%. And then with Sadhu Sangha, with Sadhu Sangha, his attraction, his attraction is more now. Maybe this is 10%, this is 15%. His anarthas, you can see, are filled in the beginning stage before taking to bhakti. But slowly when he takes to bhakti, some of the anarthas are gone. This much is gone. And as he takes Sadhu Sangha and does bhajan kriya, you can see, how much anartha is gone. And even this is what the last, the black portion is aparad, which is, stays for a long time. With anarth nivritti, his attraction is more for bhakti, and papa or anarthas are destroyed quite to a certain degree. At the stage of nishtha, his attraction to Krishna is 50% and to Maya is also 50%. At the stage of Vritti, his attraction is more. The papa or aparad or anarthas are almost destroyed, but still the aparad remains. At asakti, you can see his attraction is quite deep. At bhava, his anarthas are completely gone. You can see here, completely gone, this triangle. But aparad, traces of aparad still remain. You can see here. Traces of aparad still remain. At prema, even the aparad is destroyed. This I had explained, but now I forgot to show it in the chart, so I'm explaining it. So here we will stop, and we have discussed who is a sadhu from Harinam Chintamani in these 43 to 44. Now, further we will discuss in the next week. There is one question that I will take and then wind up today's session. Yes, Maya Narasimha Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question is regarding two personalities, Prabhuji. I'll take half a minute to explain my question, Prabhuji. Kindly bear with me, Prabhuji.
Can you be a little brief?
Yeah, very brief, Prabhuji. It is regarding like those people who pass themselves as great saints in the outside community, outside ISKCON, and they also chant the holy names, but ultimately they are cheating the people. That is one thing.
Now, you are speaking about ISKCON devotees or outside?
Outside ISKCON. Outside ISKCON.
Whom exactly you are speaking about?
For example, there are some organizations, they use the holy names as one of the means. Like, for example, Art of Living and other things, they do propose this Sankirtan and chanting the glories like Satsai and other people, but ultimately they are coming to a wrong conclusion and they're in some kind of cheating the people. That is one thing. And then another thing, within the ISKCON community also, because of some leaders, their own perspective of preaching and performing a devotional service, they impose some rules and decisions which will really trouble the followers of that community. So in these situations, how those people, those who are in those two forums, can represent themselves without offending?
Okay, let us take the first part. those who are outside the Sampradaya, who just take the name, we should appreciate. Ultimately, they are taking Krishna's names, and it can be Namabas, it can be in the Ashraddha Namabas, and it can be also Pratibimba Namabas also. So ultimately, they are taking name, and if they come in association of pure devotees, get Sambandh Gyan, ultimately they can become devotees. Prabhupada in the Nectar of Instruction explains that even the Sahajiyas who are taking the holy name, one should offer respects to them. Prabhupada is explaining that. They are Prakrita Vaishnavas. Prabhupada says they are Prakrita Vaishnavas. So this is first thing. Secondly, within the community, if somebody has a certain mood of preaching and he tries to impose that in the community, which we are not comfortable, devotional service is voluntary, it is spontaneous, and the devotee has to take his own initiative. So devotional service is not something which is institutionalized. It is not an institutional regulation, but institution helps us to propagate it in a systematic way through systematic education. We can, if we are not comfortable, then we can take shelter of devotees which suits according to our mood, and we have to be frank about it, and we have to be firm about it, and practice according to our mood. That is very important for us. And for this, we have to be under the shelter of our counselors, our Shiksha Gurus, and our Diksha Gurus. I don't see it as a big problem. Is it okay, clear, Prabhuji?
Okay, Prabhu. So it means that in a local area where I'm connected, I can forego that. I can connect some remote center and I can practice bhakti, which is comfortable for me.
Yes, definitely. Bhakti is completely transcendental. It is not having any barriers, boundaries, geographical boundaries. Absolutely, there is no problem. Where you're getting inspiration from, wherever that source of inspiration you're getting, and it is taking you forward, you have to follow that. You have to follow your heart sometimes. Okay?
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Srila Harinam Shri Harinam Chintamani ki jai. Hare Krishna.